if you're not losing belly fat right now or just body fat in general, even though you feel like your diet is on point most days, then what it means is that What's up guys, Sean Alawani, RealScienceAthletics.com, and in this video today I want to explain one very important reason why you're not losing belly fat even though you might think you're in a calorie deficit and you're following a quote-unquote healthy diet. And this isn't just about losing belly fat, okay? This principle applies to overall fat loss in general since they're ultimately the same thing. And this is a mistake that a very high percentage of people make when trying to lose fat. Okay, I don't know if it's exactly 80%, but it's a very high percentage nonetheless. It might even be more than that since we know that the vast majority of people who begin a fat loss diet ultimately end up failing in the long run. So let's just jump right into it. Now, there are obviously a lot of different potential reasons for why you might not be losing belly fat right now, but at the very base level, the most fundamental reason, as you've probably already heard many times before, okay, the underlying reason is that you're not in a consistent calorie deficit. Or you are in a calorie deficit, but that deficit is so small that the results are coming at a very slow pace. And one of the major reasons for this, one of the major reasons why this happens for a lot of people and why it might be happening for you is that you're simply viewing fat loss with too narrow of a lens. In other words, you're looking at your diet within the short-term scope of individual days rather than viewing it like you need to be, which is as the average of what you're doing over the course of the longer term. So you might be saying, okay, today was a good day of eating. You know, I ate clean, I was in a calorie deficit, so that was a success. And then maybe tomorrow the same thing, maybe the next day the same thing, okay, great. But then the weekend comes and you decide to reward yourself, and so you let loose a bit. You have a few extra treats, you go have a big restaurant meal and several drinks on top of it, and then maybe the next day you do something similar, and then you go back to your fat loss diet the following Monday. And you might think, well, I was good Monday through Friday, so it's fine if I was bad on Saturday and Sunday because it's more good days than bad days, so I'm still going to lose body fat. But in reality, that's not how fat loss works. Fat loss at the core is an overall numbers game based on how much total energy you're consuming versus how much total energy you're expending, not just for one day, but for the entire week and the month and the year as a whole. And I'm not saying that calories in versus calories out is the only thing that you should care about nutrition-wise. Okay, food selection and macronutrient intake matters too, for the sake of optimizing your overall health and keeping hunger controlled and building muscle effectively. So basing your diet around minimally processed whole foods and getting insufficient protein, that's still also very important. But when it comes purely to the question of fat loss, total energy in versus total energy out is the underlying name of the game. So just because you happen to be in a deficit for a few days in a row and a surplus for only maybe one day, that doesn't guarantee fat loss, or at least it doesn't guarantee fat loss to a measurable, significant degree, because it ultimately comes down to what the total size of the deficit was over those few days, combined versus what the total surplus was on the following day or the following few days. So if you average, let's say 500 calories below maintenance for 5 days in a row, let's say Monday through Friday, that's a total net deficit of 2,500 calories, which is pretty good. That's a little over 2/3 of a pound of fat. But if you then go and eat, let's say 750 calories above maintenance on both Saturday and Sunday, you've now cut your net deficit from 2,500 calories all the way down to 1,000 calories, which is now an average of about 140 calories below maintenance for the entire week as a whole, which isn't very much and isn't going to have you losing fat at a very significant rate. And that's just one example. You know, maybe when nutritional tracking errors are accounted for, you're actually averaging maybe 400 calories below maintenance during the week, and then you eat a total of 2,000 calories above maintenance over the course of the weekend, in which case you've essentially erased your entire deficit altogether. And if this is a nutritional concept that you're already implementing yourself, or if it's something that you're learning here for the first time, make sure to hit that like button below to show your support for this content. It really helps get the video out to more people, and it keeps me motivated to continue producing these free videos as well. So there's nothing wrong with taking periodic breaks from your diet and having, say, a refeed day once a week or so, where you eat at your calorie maintenance level, or just having days here and there where you just go ahead and let loose and eat in a straight up surplus without worrying about it. But if you're currently not losing belly fat, or you're just not losing body fat in general, and you're serious about leaning down and getting into better shape, then you have to be aware of how those days are fitting into the overall overall picture as a whole, and recognize that there's nothing inherently special about the time frame of 24 hours. Not a lot happens in terms of fat loss or fat gain within that short 24-hour period. We just happen to organize our time that way, and we happen to think in those terms because of our sleeping and waking cycles. But in reality, it's what you do over the course of the entire week and the entire month and even the entire year as a whole that's going to truly determine your resulting bottom line body composition. How many total calories did you consume on average across that time frame, and how many total calories did you expend on average across that time frame? That's what it boils down to. It's normal for things to fluctuate from day to day, but it's the long-term average that makes the real difference. So if you think your diet has been good overall, but you do have days where your calories spike up for whatever reason and you're not getting the fat burning results that you're after right now, if that's the case, then you need to look at things a bit more closely and consider how your calories might be averaging out when everything is taken into account. So all the foods and all the beverages, all the snacks and treats, okay, everything for the week as a whole, because most people, without realizing it, are actually consuming quite a few more calories than they realize when everything is tallied up in detail. And if things aren't averaging out to around 300 to 500 calories below maintenance per day, then you're either going to lose fat so slowly that it won't be very motivating and it will probably take quite a long time to get to your goal, or you just might not lose any body fat at all. If you're currently not tracking anything at all in terms of daily calories and you are consistently dropping fat, then that's totally fine and you should just continue on that way. Okay, that's the ideal situation to be in. But if your fat loss has stalled out and things don't seem to be moving at all, you're going to need to take some time to buckle down and really monitor things more closely to get yourself back on the right track. And then as a final point here, I should also mention that this whole concept works the other way around as well. In other words, if you are losing body fat at a reasonable pace and you do stay on track with your deficit the majority of days, then you should also keep in mind that one quote unquote bad day of eating where you don't hit your deficit and you just eat at maintenance or in a calorie surplus, if the majority of days are on point, then those temporary spikes are not a big deal and you shouldn't beat yourself up over them or think that one high calorie day means you've ruined your diet, because it's only going to have a minimal impact on the long-term average. If you eat at maintenance on a given day, then nothing happens at all. It's basically just a wash. Okay, it's just a brief pause where you don't gain or lose fat. And if you eat in, say, a 500 calorie surplus, that only bleeds out an extra 70 calories per day across the entire week as a whole. Or if you only did that every 2 weeks, that's 35 extra calories per day, which is very little. So this is another potential source of fat loss failure where people actually are doing a very good job in the overall picture, but then they get overly discouraged and they lose motivation whenever a given day doesn't go as planned because they overestimate the effect that it's actually going to have, which is usually quite minimal if things are otherwise reasonably on point for the week and for the month as a whole. So bottom line, if you're not losing belly fat right now or just body fat in general, even though you feel like your diet is on point most days, then what it means is that the long-term caloric average is still too high. And if you are losing fat effectively, even though you might have some bad days here and there, then it means that the long-term caloric average is still within a proper range, and so you don't need to stress out over those higher calorie days here and there. Calories in versus calories out is the ultimate deciding factor when it comes to losing fat, and this applies not just in blocks of 24 hours, but rather for the week, the month, and the year as a whole. If you found this advice helpful and you want to learn exactly how to bring this all together in terms of a fully structured program, not just in terms of nutrition, but also training as well, so that you can lose fat and gain lean muscle at your maximum potential in a sustainable way, then make sure to head over to seannell.com/custom, fill out the form on that page, and I'll personally send you back a free customized program based on your current condition and specific goals. You can click up here for that or use the link in the description box below. On the supplementation side of things, you can also visit realscienceathletics.com to check out my science-based, no BS supplements that I personally formulated to help fully streamline your diet and optimize your overall progress. And you can use coupon code YouTube15 to save 15% off your entire first order. And as always, guys, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already in order to stay up to date on all of my future videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.